Evening, everybody. I'm gonna make sure we're set up, and we're gonna do something new tonight. Well, sort of new. I guess last week we did Jurassic World Evolution 2, which I quite enjoyed. But I should maybe just come out and share part of this was because I'd been thinking about Two Point Campus for a while. I first played Two Point Campus on Game Pass, and one of the drawbacks for that was I needed to, I just needed to do some stuff. As much as I like gaming, it's not my primary activity. And so, if life gets in the way, I can't even say it gets in the way, right? Like I play games to have a fun and rounded life, not I put life on hold to get in the way, when it gets in the way of gaming. But, stuff comes up. And so I didn't get to spend as much time in the game as I wanted. And then by that time, it was no longer in Game Pass. And it was always a tough call for me to pick it up for the simple reason that I have played Two Point Hospital, which I've had for a while. I believe the Two Point Studio is, in fact, founded by some Bullfrog alumni. And, it's one of these tricky ones. Like, we all, I think, have libraries larger than we can reasonably play. And, like, some games you're just done with. You've had the experience and you can move on. And then there are other ones where maybe you haven't even tried them yet. But it's just one of these ones where I want to support the things that I like. But on the other hand, if I haven't played all of Two Point Hospital, do I really need to add another game to the list, right? But the thing is that I've thought about the game a lot since I last played it. And I've kind of wanted to play it because I do have a love of business sims, and I actually don't really think I play them that much on the stream. I should probably fix that. But at this point now, it's sort of like, okay, I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to be buying games just for nothing. But then I've sort of had that like crossover moment where I'm like, I should probably pick up Two Point Campus. So, I just put it on a wish list, and I put it on a wish list on Microsoft Store, and thinking it's okay, I'll just pick up the bundle. But the bundle didn't go on sale; it was just the base game, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a disappointment. So then I put it on the wish list for Steam, not really thinking that it was gonna turn into anything. But I think probably within a week of doing that wish list, it gets a pretty healthy discount. So I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I do sort of hate this way of thinking about games, right? That part of the game is like trying to give as little money as possible to the developer. I don't think that's always the nicest way of looking at these things. But on the other hand, right, like because I'm saying it's like, I'll maybe pick this up after I finish Two Point Hospital. That's a price point at which I went from not potentially buying it until I played another game to now picking it up. So, I guess these things sort of balance each other out. I'm not quite sure how to think about that. But again, well, I guess it would have to have been within the past week because I played Jurassic World Evolution because I didn't have Two Point Campus. I would have played Two Point Campus if I did. I was like, you know what? This one seems kind of fun. So I did actually really enjoy Jurassic World Evolution, but I'm going to be playing the game that I wanted to play, which is Two Point Campus now. And I did actually find something kind of fun off of the Wikipedia page for this. So I'll just read it. It's in the development section here. It says Two Point Campus is the successor to Two Point Hospital and the second game developed by British developer Two Point Studios. The studio was inspired by Animal House, Pitch Perfect, Grease, and Harry Potter. Oh, no, no, I think I know what they mean. The team added a trait system which allows students to form relationships. The team believed that by allowing to see how the students evolve throughout the in game academic years, they will start to care for them. The team was influenced by other simulation games such as the Sims series. And here's the quote that I really highlighted me. According to game director Gary Carr, quote, the byproduct we want is when you say goodbye to your first enrollment, if we can make you have a little tear in your eye as you're waving them off into the great wide world, that's awesome. This worked. I mean, maybe I don't have the tear in my eye. It's just, I'm not going to try and pretend that, I am completely incapable of emotion or anything like that. But, for the same reason why you know, any alarm that I express in the Outlast trials is sometimes a bit of a put on. I'm not going to get like incredibly weepy over, a virtual character. But I will 100% say that one of the great appeals of Two Point Campus is that I I do still think very fondly of my time in school. And I think there are some better and worse ways to navigate those feelings. I think there's always that type. I mean, there's a certain type of person who wants to know where you went to school, and they will work out some sort of a ranking that way. And all I can say is like those kinds of people peaked in school, and usually they're actually not from that impressive a school. Because like I remember I got really tired of I specifically had a coworker that did this. And I always took the view of not wanting to dignify the response, like not to dignify the question with a response. But I did actually get a bit annoyed one day. And so I just finally said it. And like, at least from the standards of like when I went there, obviously they let all these kids in now and it's ruined. But, you know, I, you know, I went to a pretty good econ program, and like it obviously shut them up. Like they used to always like just try and play the whole, oh, well, you know, when you do real research, blah 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 card. And like this is not someone I was ever impressed by their research ability for. You know, sometimes the worst part about the world is that irritating people or people who don't have good intentions can actually sometimes be very good at what they do. And you know, it would be, I guess, sort of excuse me, it would be convenient, or I don't want to say nice, but like it would be convenient if like the world could just be easily divided by people who have like no redeeming qualities and the good people. That's not how that works, right? As it was, though, this is someone who very clearly was working through some insecurity that they had through trying to play like the university ranking game. So I do feel that that's probably like a really petty way of raising the point, but I do think that there can be a bit of a danger in getting too nostalgic for these things. You know, the purpose of the education is so that you get yourself a set of tools for thinking about the world. So once you take the training wheels off, once you go outside the academy, you will achieve good things. You know, one may even hope that you might be a good person, although those sometimes involve qualities that are not tied to an education. And so I don't know. It's like it's one of these things where it's hard not to get excited. You know, this is one of the ways that I kind of tried to explain to people. You know, there's a very dull way of looking at statistics, and it's true, right? Individual numbers on their own, much like history, if it's just a question of you feel you need to memorize a certain sequence of dates, and sometimes you need to put little post-it notes beside those dates to know that important thing happened, you're probably not going to think very much of history. But there's obviously some types of histories, and like this is not a new thing. You know, Gibbon is a really good writer. I know Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire is a long work, but it's a really, really well it's a really well written book. Like they're very quotable quotes inside. So the same with Tacitus, classic Tacitus. All killer, no filler. Did he ever have a bad quote? Um, but yeah, so sorry, I like Succession too much. um, there's also like Francis Parkman, right? He did a really good history of the 7 Years' War. Even something like Herodotus, I think, has a certain charm as a narrative. Um, and in fact, this maybe would not be as much history, but Diogenes Laertius, The Lives of Eminent Philosophers, there's a number of sort of ironic deaths, and it's kind of hard to say whether or not it counts as a joke or not, but where I'm going with this is that some people will look at history and I think to a certain extent accurately say, I could not think of something more boring. And someone else will look at history and be like, this is the most exciting thing ever. And I guess, like, I don't know, if you're like a middle-aged dad, I guess there's a certain point where like you just get really into World War II. But or maybe it's the Roman Empire. I don't know. Somebody, if any middle-aged dads in the chat can let me know what history books they're reading, because I know you're all reading history. I even think that was a plot point in The Sopranos. I never saw that much of The Sopranos, but I'm pretty sure there's like a plot point on that at some point. Underwater Monk says, I see this with art. Everyone rushes to say Kanye's music or Rowling's books are trash when they start taking unconscionable political stands, like the can't handle bad person being good at something they like. Yeah, it's, I want to allow for the fact that people have different preference sets than I do. I do know some people who really don't seem to be able to disentangle the things that a creator says from from the work. And like, I think I kind of understand it. Like I remember some of the music I've listened to when like really bad, I'm talking like physically violent things have happened to me. I do enjoy that music still. I'm lucky enough that I've not, I've not lost my enjoyment of it. That would be actually very sad if that had happened. But I do know what it's like to sort of have a response to that song. It's not a really strong one, but there's sort of, it's almost like just the shadow of something that appears every once in a while. And so that's given me enough empathy to be able to say, depending on someone's makeup, it may just be that, there is something now that prevents them from being able to enjoy something that they did before. But, I that's not to discount what you're saying, because I 100% know the type of person that you are talking about. And I think there's a big difference between saying, I can't enjoy ... anymore. So I think there's somebody who visits the stream every once in a while who says that they used to really like the movie K-Pax, but Kevin Spacey's presence prevents them from being able to enjoy it. It's not a personal perspective that I have, but I also don't necessarily think that my preference set is one that should be applied to other people. But that would obviously be different from saying, J.K. Rowling is a bad writer, right? If you thought Harry Potter was enjoyable before, and you can't enjoy it now, that's different than the quality of the writing somehow changing on the basis of someone's personality. So, and it's funny too, because like some people have asked me about this with Lovecraft, and I was like, well, I'm not going to defend the indefensible, but the fact of the matter is, like, if the stories themselves don't possess those qualities that you think are worthwhile, like just the number of people who've been able to follow in that path, I think is at least some evidence that the work can transcend the limitations of its creators, and that clearly there was something there to drive people to make something that's quite popular. I'll go even so far and say like quality. I some I just don't want to immediately assume that like Lovecraft is immediately to everybody's taste, because the thing is it's sort of like cyberpunk, right? Like I don't know how many people have actually read Neuromancer. I don't even know how many people like Neuromancer ends in space. Like and you actually very rarely see space in cyberpunk topics. In fact, Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the rare cases where you see space. Um, but yeah, well, and this is one of the weird ones for me. Like I actually don't have as big of a deal with the money thing, because in the end, um, this is for better or worse the society that we have chosen, right? Like I put something into society, right? Like basically 7.5 hours of the day, I'm a machine that turns coffee into typos, and then someone above me says, "Hey, here are some typos," and then I go and fix those, and then I go home and do my streaming thing, and I get paid for that. And some people are going to turn around and say, "You're using your money for video games? Like, do you realize, the power draw from your computer and the data centers that are running Steam are causing environmental degradation, and that you're putting on a stream where you just keep talking? You don't even play the game, and it's rotting the minds of generations. You are creating negative externalities. How dare you? You should be fired because you're putting your money towards the wrong thing." To which the answer should be, I put my time in, I do a thing that society values for the, wage I am paid. Um, and I then make commensurate demands of society's resources, right? Um, I can feel badly about how people spend it. So yeah, I mean, like obviously I think there's a lot of things that people spend their time and money on that are not great. But I also kind of recognize that the same could be said for some of my pastimes. I mean, mine probably are just like inappropriate for for an adult. Yeah, there's probably a point I should stop playing video games. But you know, it's that one for whatever reason I mean, sometimes it could just be that like I do actually get quite upset by some things. Like I think maybe I've noticed this in some conversations with people. I think some people think that I don't necessarily have like a moral compass or anything like that. And that's definitely not true. And I think if I had to defend it, I could point to some pretty clear instances. It's just I don't see a whole lot of value in broadcasting that sort of stuff. But I also do kind of like take a long view on some things. And I do try and keep a broader perspective on this as well. So actually, it's funny. I do occasionally hang out in my university's subreddit. And there was actually, I wasn't thinking of bringing this up, but we were going to be playing Two Point Campus. So this is probably a reasonable example of this. So the original post was, do you think, I do actually like the name of the poster, A Small Army of Crabs, which I think is a great name for Reddit. And it says here, do you think profs will have to create more entertaining lectures so you'll pay attention? I've been seeing some discourse around young people being unable to pay attention to things anymore, like TV shows being written to repeat dialogue so you can play on your phone and still get the gist of the story. I know for myself, I always have to sit in the front row, or else I'm literally just watching the person in front of me play on their phone/laptops. I've also been guilty of playing on my own phone during lectures, which I try not to do, but you know how it is. Anyway, it's doubtful our attention is going to improve as apps get more addictive. So do you think profs are going to have to change/simplify their material? Now, sometimes I just like being an ass online. But this is there is actually a point behind this, and I think it's really clear what the point of my reply is going to be. And I said, at the price point, there are less costly or more prestigious ways of being entertained than an undergraduate degree, right? And you can absolutely see why the poster is making the point that they're making, but why I think there's probably an unhelpful assumption embedded in it, right? Which is, okay, everybody's getting more distracted, so how do the profs need to change? Now, I don't actually believe profs don't need to change. I think there's a lot of professors who could, in fact, become better educators, and I would actually maybe argue that some of the things that we think are distractions can actually make the market for education quite a bit more competitive, right? So something like YouTube, if you have a professor who's very good at teaching something, they can now more widely distribute the education, at least in the form of a recorded lecture. Obviously, teaching is more than just, delivering a speech. But, in this case here, arguably the matter of transmitting prepared material can actually be now outsourced to a the people with a real gift for that, whether or not it's entertaining, right? Now, I happen to believe that there's more to an education than just sitting in lecture. Showing up to office hours is a good idea. Reading the textbook, doing exercises. And then more importantly, I think a really important part of education is being able to understand where the person is in terms of their learning, identify the gap in terms of understanding, which to me is largely a question of empathy, right? So, and I would argue, while what I'm saying is obviously just me having a little fun with the premise, I can see where the error in the judgment lies, right? The idea that the solution to distracting apps is for school to become more entertaining. But obviously embedded in that assumption is that school needs to be entertaining. And the fact of the matter is that, if you want to spend some money, go to the movies, watch some YouTube, watch a Twitch stream, play a video game. All of these things will cost considerably less than an undergraduate degree. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the cost of a computer, and even if you bought like a AAA game a month for 4 years, you are probably still paying less than school. But of course, the problem is you're not going to have an education at the end of it. And then, of course, likewise, maybe you are a particularly wealthy individual and you want to be entertained. Well, again, school's a pretty crappy choice there. You can go to Coachella. You could, that's actually still cheaper too. You could, there's lots of different things you could do for the cost of, of an undergraduate degree, which are like the kinds of holidays that just, you see in some Korean drama about like some chaebol family or something like that. Again, if the purpose is entertainment, there are better things than school. But I also know that's not directly what they're saying. But again, it's what it is. The purpose of that reply is to poke at a couple of the built-in assumptions. Yeah, for what it's worth. I realize I was kind of going off topic now. You're in college now, and it seems to you like the main role of a professor now is answering questions. Anyone can get the information online, but in a college or university class, you can have an in-depth conversation with, hopefully, an expert in real time, which is irreplaceable. Absolutely. The dirty little secret of my schooling was that I originally wanted to go in for philosophy. I'm going to hop into the game shortly after, but it's nice to have this chat at the start because I did want to talk about why I was really interested in doing 2 Point Campus. But I remember, so like I originally wanted to go in for philosophy, but I did take an economics course, and I was really, really interested in it to a point where I was pretty sure I knew that was what I wanted to do. Didn't me? And I would actually say this is probably a historically sound, or at least has historical precedent, because of course this is how Adam Smith got started. There are versions of maybe not versions of Smith, but there are interpretations of Smith that say that effectively his thought, the combination of the theory of moral sentiments and the Wealth of Nations, are that it is a resolution of the kind of contest between Epicurean and Stoic philosophy. I'm sort of on the fence on how I feel about that in general. I think actually theory of moral sentiments is a really interesting one. I know if I ever had to teach a course on the theory of moral sentiments, I would introduce it as basically saying that, like, at least in the start of the book, Adam Smith basically says that the fact that you kind of cringe when you see a guy getting like kicked in the nuts is the like source, or the kind of the foundation of empathy and ethics. So I could actually see if I could find the passage, but I know it's been like half an hour. So, hey, Mr. On here, Mr. On, it's good to see you again. I'm playing 2 Point Campus, partly because I school was very happy for me. I mean, I was stressed out about classes and all of that too. Like, don't get me wrong, but yeah. Anyway, like it's I don't know. The theme of it is something or subject, not theme. Subject is something I'm interested in. But yeah, to your point, Underwater Monk. Actually, it's funny. I have 2 students in my class, or in my stream now. I'm gonna feel out of place. I think I'm the only person not in like a formal class right now. But yeah, so I mean, the original interest was in philosophy. I knew that I wanted to do economics, and I knew that I actually wanted to pursue it quite seriously. And so this would be confronting the fact that I was one of those poor, misguided souls who didn't think he was a math person, which I think is absolute nonsense. I get that math is hard. The trick is that mathematicians find math hard. Nobody finds math easy, but you can do it. It's like cooking. Follow the instructions. I realize that is easier said than done. Like I had to put in the work for it. But for those of you who think that you may have a hard time with mathematics, my level of mathematics was so poor when I started university. I did not appreciate that squaring, right? So like 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 3 to the power of 3 is 9, that sort of stuff. And that the square root were inverse. I just sort of thought, like, when you run into square roots, you like really pray that a number like 16 or 9 is in it, because that has like 4 or 3 as an answer. But like if it was 2, it's like nobody knew the answer to that until calculators, right? There's literally no way you're ever going to be able to go further than that. Or like square root of 8 or something. And like I gotta start somewhere. I was able to undumb myself out of that. And it did not involve Socrates like getting me to draw shapes in the dirt and having him lead the witness. Did you know about logarithms before university? I don't think I did, actually. I'm trying to think. I didn't immediately call. Like, it was one of the first things that I learned when I was doing the review and like working my way up. But the reason why I mentioned this to you, Underwater Monk, is that like because I knew I was going to pursue this seriously. I was like, I need to take some math courses, and I need to take some hard math courses. Like, I need to make sure I am ready for when the graduate level stuff comes at me. So I took a math proofs course, and I went to office hours every day, or not every day, every time that they were there. I'd be asking the prof questions over and over. Did well in the course. I was happy. There's actually a couple of proofs about the Fibonacci numbers that still put a smile on my face when I do them. I was really, really happy to do those proofs in an exam, because like I got it. What was the textbook for that math proofs course? I don't know if it had a textbook. I think they were all lecture notes. Um, it wouldn't surprise me actually because of what the punchline to this story will be. Effectively, what it was is it was sort of the prerequisite for mathematical analysis. So the standard textbook for mathematical analysis is usually Walter Rudin, Baby Rudin, Principles of Mathematical Analysis. Although I do know that that one is often regarded as a bit dense. And so sometimes people will either assign a companion text or something a little more friendly. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, not. I know the one you're talking about. But yeah, that I think that one would have been a little too. I think that one probably, like, if it's I'm assuming you're referring to the calculus text that he did. I think the problem with that one would be that while that does a good job of putting you on the road to analysis, I think the purpose was more general mathematical reasoning rather than the taking you down a certain path. Like, so in theory you'd be able to do your some of your linear algebra, matrix algebra, would different schools will give them different names, and like obviously for sometimes that's going to be people's first encounter with a very proofy kind of class. If you're a comp sci major, sometimes your discrete math course is going to be the first time that you're encountering that. So yeah, I think the effort here was not to get too focused on a specific form that it would take. Um, anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a lot of tangents. What is very funny on this one, though, is that at the end, really liked the guy was a great prof, like engaging speaker, really knowledgeable on the subject, very generous with his time in office hours, looked the part of the math professor, which was kind of fun. And at the end of I think it was like the last week of class or something like that, I finally looked this guy up. And it turns out that he is not just a fellow of the Canadian Royal Society, he is a fellow of the Royal Society, as in his name is in a book somewhere with Sir Isaac Newton and like Stephen Hawking. And I was asking him the dumbest math questions for like an entire term, which, I guess I've seen enough British comedies that I sort of feel a degree of social embarrassment about it. But, as Utterwatermugg says, right, it is the access to an instructor. And what made him a good instructor was that when I demonstrated a gap in understanding, he was able to identify where the gap was and bring me to that place. Because, of course, the one problem with sort of any kind of education is that you can convey the ideas, you can tell people to read textbooks, you can tell them to do homework. The one thing you cannot do is understand it for them. Or Euclid said it even better, possibly apocryphal, but there is no royal road to geometry. So all of that to say, I am conscious of sort of the shadow of the kind of nostalgia that you can get for school, which is you peaked at that time, or, you are focusing too much on the effort that you did to get in there, as opposed to recognizing that that was the launch pad for the contributions that you will be making to society from that. So I don't want to wallow too much in that, but I do also remember too, it was there's a TV show, it's over now, but it's starring Paul Giamatti, called Billions. And I also remember I'm trying to remember exactly the scene. I don't think it's psychoanalysis, but I think it's kind of close to that. And at some point it says, like, tell me a place where you felt very secure and sure of yourself. And he was like, Yale Law School library. And of course that's him thinking back to his school years, knowing his place, knowing his purpose, doing the right thing. And this is an accomplished character. He plays district attorney for part of it, I think, candidate for governor. I don't know if he ever actually becomes governor. But no, governor's wrong. It escapes me right now what his role is. But anyway, political figure. So the individual attachment that I have is, a certain fondness for the time that I spent there. But also I like learning. I like teaching. I like the institution. I do sometimes feel quite bad when I see some of the stories about, I don't want to say what it's become, but like The Atlantic has a pretty good series on some of the ways that people are trying to game the system. So, at Ivy League Universe, I should not stop calling them Ivy League Universe, because the Ivy League is not the same as the ones that we consider the Ivy League. I mean, it doesn't matter now because everybody just calls it that, but like elite universities, obviously they have a lot of demographic information about who's going in. So there's the count of people who are entering the entrance cohorts. And then you have the count of people who are getting concessions due to various disabilities. All of this is getting extra time for your exams. These are not people who actually have these disabilities, but we don't question it, right? Because you would never. I would feel terrible for denying someone the help that they need in the case that really happened. But again, I kind of want to set aside the AI thing. Like, I realize that that's just a really quick way that you can make an interesting conversation become very boring. But like, it's hard not to point to that as a potential contributor. The Atlantic has been doing some coverage on just all the different ways that university has become. It's actually in a funny way, like speaking of like really old stuff, the Wire has a season where it's sort of dealing with the education system, and like there's like a cop who is dealing with a particularly like at risk group of kids, and has this moment of realization. Is like, it's like you're not learning the material for the class, but you're learning all the tricks you need for the street, and like part of it's just like reading the body language of the teacher, noticing that his hand kept hovering over the right answer. So they don't know how to do mathematics, but they do need to know how to read the body language of someone. So, this to me is the shame whenever I read that. I don't know how widespread it is, because obviously Atlantic's going to be talking about the United States. But I mean, the United States has very high quality universities, and at least some of them have English majors, right? We're not talking about breadth courses here, who cannot read a full novel. And then the companion to that was film studies classes, where it is considered too much to do a feature-length film, right? You can't do The Godfather in the course because it's just too difficult to keep everyone's attention. Now, it's not like I'm sitting there doing the surveys. I don't know how widespread that is, but it is something that does make me feel a little bad, because I think Mr. Histeron will say this better, right? Philology teaches you just a different way of reading, even if you are reading for pleasure. I'd argue even just like doing writing yourself. That's another way where, I guess the cost of writing fiction is that you don't necessarily read stories quite the same way you did before. I'll say that's definitely true for motion pictures, but maybe the consolation is that you gain an appreciation for the things that you are reading or watching, the things that you're experiencing, that more than compensates for maybe that tendency to just sort of let the whole thing wash over you. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's I don't like the idea of just sort of getting on my high horse and saying, oh, the next generation's doomed. I am troubled by the fact that even like in my even my cohort, like one of my small disappointments with grad school was that I thought I was going to see a lot of people like me. And of course, that really hard thing that I think a lot of people in grad school run into is finding out that like you might have been like you're the smartest guy in your program, but you're in a class full of people who are the smartest guys in their programs, and maybe you're not the smartest one anymore. Um, so I think I'm lucky to have the temperament where I do like working with people who are sharper than me, because it inspires that productive kind of competition to try and get on their level. I had like a couple of classmates who were just machines when it came to the quantitative side of things. Like I would never catch up with them, but I would try and learn the magic that they could do. And I think there's some benefit in having that attitude. And even too, like at work, like I genuinely want to be the best. This will sound like megalomaniacal, but like I want to be the best in the world at what I do. Um, I don't know if there's a way of testing that, but you know, I am happiest at work when I feel like I'm pushing out the frontier of what's possible. And I'm unhappy at work when I feel that I'm not working towards something like that. And that is different from recognition, right? You don't need to get a prize that says you're the best in the world. You need to know that, there is something that nobody's been able to figure out, and you don't know if you're going to figure it out or not, but you're going to do that because you have a shot of being able to crack it. Like that is the happy place as far as work is for me. And that's probably one of the reasons why I like universities, right? Because in theory, that's exactly what they should be doing. They should be incrementally pushing out the frontier of knowledge, even if it's just going to be a paper that's like read and appreciated by like 3 people. So again, this is probably also why I talk for like, 45 minutes at the start of a stream. A university, a school is just a great setting for a game. And again, that quote where they say, you feel, you have a little tear in your eye when you see the students that you've grown to know over some time, over graduation. And at least for me, like thinking about school in the sense of liking learning, liking teaching, liking the time that I spent in university without necessarily getting mired in looking backward too much. They're all good things. So I was particularly happy to have this game go on sale, and I'm very happy to be able to share it with you. All right, thanks everybody. We'll hit it hard next week for the next one. We are loading up the game now. Also, Mr. Histeron, if you don't mind me asking, how's the game to voice volume, by the way? Am I getting drowned out by the high notes? One of the questions I meant to ask you, I spent so much time talking about my experience with the classics, and I feel drowned out. Okay. Hopefully that improved it. I'll let all of you judge whether or not it's at the right level or not. I do have one thing that's sort of covering my my audio guide right now, so it's a little... Sounds good? Okay, cool. But yeah, I spent so much time talking about what I like about the classics, and you mentioned that you didn't necessarily do philosophy, although there's a certain overlap in terms of the topic that you're talking about. But I never, or the topic that you're studying, I know it's Greek, but I never asked you what you are reading. And that may even be different from what your happy place or what your preferred topic is. But I guess I would ask, insofar as you can share, I know you wanted to keep some of your personal details to yourself, but if I can, just maybe the broad area that you're working in, and then if there is a difference, perhaps where some of your personal favorites are. I'm Albert Crank, your own personal advisor, and I'm here to help. You may not have any experience as a campus administrator, but the people at Freshly County College are eager to give you a chance. I'm not sure what that says about them, but hey, let's head to Freshly Meadows and get started on our academic empire. Freshly Meadows. This countryside college has low expectations and a nice canal. It's the perfect place to start your career. And apparently a $500,000 endowment.
A university is not something that one simply opens, like a savings account or a jar of pickles. Any self-respecting academic institution was doubtlessly opened long ago by dignified people who wore bowler hats and spoke via subtitle. The world is a creation of the past, and it is our job to keep it all going and try not to touch anything.
First day of school, welcome to Freshly Meadows, where life moves slowly and expectations are lowly. The 2 Point countryside is the perfect place to start your career. Learn the ropes, make mistakes, and hit the ground smiling. Course info, Scientography, student intake 10. All right, well, your challenge right now is finding a supervisor who is interested in your project, or not even your project, but your ethos. Your background before becoming a philologist is in CS and software dev. You're self-taught in these subjects as well as philosophy. It's been a major challenge, so I'm either prioritizing getting the languages down as a kind of technical prerequisite for future studies. That's actually kind of interesting because I don't have a comp sci background, but I do have, like, obviously the quantitative background. So I was really interested in Frederick Mosteller's work on the Federalist Papers. So for those of you who don't know this, there were the three authors of the Federalist Papers, and I believe it was particularly between Madison and Hamilton. There was a clear idea in terms of, like, some were Madison, some were Hamilton, some were John Jay, but it wasn't immediately clear for a set of them. There's sort of some disputed papers among these authors in terms of who wrote them. And so Mosteller, I believe there was a co-author, and the name escapes me right now, but they used some forms of statistical analysis, specifically Bayesian statistical analysis. This is kind of a famous example that people will take for Bayesian methods. And they used that to settle the authorship dispute. And did so rather convincingly. So it's clearly not lost on me that, classicists can read too, and that not all of them don't care about math. I realize that, the humanities do have a fair share of people who say they're quote unquote not math people. But the fact of the matter is there's also quite a few of them who are better mathematicians than I. I believe my classics prof was one of them, actually. Actually, also, I think there's a lot of mathematicians who are Platonists, so I think that road goes both ways. Or maybe not Neoplatonists. Yeah, I should just say, or mathematical Platonists, I guess. But I always wondered, right? Like, I don't know if there are qualities of ancient Greek that make it difficult to do that kind of analysis. Obviously, we've had quite a few developments in terms of quantitative methods to do this. And some of the obvious candidates to me, I would imagine, would be the epistles, right? And particularly the seventh letter. So we have a huge interest in Euclid, Archimedes, as well as philosophical texts. This tends to irk your department. Oh, that's a shame.
By a car full of whippersnappers, pipsqueaks, and good for some things. I couldn't tell what they were chanting, but it certainly did look like fun. So today...
Oh, I just wanted to pause so I didn't have too much running by. Welcome to campus. Before you start churning out geniuses, you'll need to learn the basics of campus management. Try moving the camera and having a look around. Whee! 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 Nope. Here we go. Whee! Our campus is going to be running a scientography course. Let's start by building a science lab. All right, so it's, recommending I put it here. I am under no obligation to do so. I'm just curious about the dimensions, so it's 5 by 5. I mean, do I really want a big, long... No. Now, one thing that I don't know about... one thing I don't know about this is... how many students can fit in this area? Science board. Let's give this a plant. Right, so there's a few things like I can build it 5 by 5, I can give it a door, I can give it a science board, I can do all of these things, but it's not immediately clear to me what the advantages of the, of all these different sort of amenities are, other than sort of raising the quality of the you can't put a whiteboard near a window. They might see the secrets. I guess that's going to happen no matter what. You're taking a very defensive strategy in your education until you find a supervisor. There might actually be somebody at your school who's interested in your general area, though. You have to take a course with them. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you feel like there's I'm glad that you feel like there's a path, because I can know. I mean, I feel like a version of this story gets told a lot of different ways. So like behavioral economics would be a good example of this in economics. And like, I don't know, I always get a little bugged by the way that some people talk about behavioral economics, like that it's like, oh yeah, all normal economics is wrong. But then the behavioralists came along and now economics is right. I'm like, no, not exactly, but okay. Like we can we can pretend if it makes you feel better. Just trying to push it up to that level 3 now. There we go. So, although maybe we won't put it by the window. But yeah, like the thing is that, I don't know, there's a whole lot of stuff that I know there's like this model of science that says, oh, here we go. Sorry. It says 8 people, room capacity 8. So if I just like blow it open like this, I guess the question would be how I mean, that's luxurious spacing, but if I add another one of these, does it? No. Okay. How do I? Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's good to know in future. I mean, I guess the question is, if I have, when I have students, is it like 100% going in the course? Oh, I can figure this out as I play, but now let's hire a teacher to run our first Scientography class. Anyway, sorry, what I was trying to say though is that, like, obviously the weird and wonderful ideas that wind up being a huge shift in how we think about an issue don't always find a warm reception at the start. So I'm sympathetic to the problem. All right. We've got Eleanor Mojo. 70% teaching skill in Scientography. Moves faster than most. Dry mouth. Gets thirsty easily. We'll make sure there's a soft drink machine nearby. Weak bladder. Toilet comfort decreases faster than most. And scared of moths. Great work. We now have everything we need to run our Scientography course. When you're ready, select Start New Year to welcome our first students.
Partly because I've got nothing else planned, I thought I'd pay tribute to those young people by telling you a few stories from my glory days.
The students are arriving on campus. Are you nervous? Why am I nervous? Sorry, I'm just going to pause here because I got a couple lines in chat. So responding to Underwater Monk's question about the difference between philology and linguistics. There's a lot of overlap between the two, but I'd say philology is much more interested in historical linguistics, texts, and cultural fluency required to unlock meaning. Linguistics proper tends to ignore the cultural literacy aspect and tends to reduce things more atomistically. Of course, nowadays you have a lot of philologists doing linguistics too. And then following up, I've got a pretty dramatic story about how I was trying to get funding and what a potential supervisor you were hopeful said to me. I'll keep that to yourself until I'm successful at this. But I kind of know the general direction your research should take and what to avoid. Yeah, the other thing that's difficult too, right, is that there is the kind of excitement that you get when you just start on a new topic. And like, I always feel that humility, and I'm really sorry I'm not making more progress on this stuff, but it's fun to talk about this stuff with you all too. I definitely know the excitement that comes from like starting onto a new subject and getting excited about it, and not knowing you're not supposed to do certain things, and we need to acknowledge this is a really we really need to acknowledge that this is a largely good impulse, right? The George Bernard Shaw quote, all progress relies on the unreasonable man. I mean, there's a bit more to it, but I'm assuming you're all familiar. Maybe I shouldn't assume that, but I also remember this was a PhD. So I think he was like a few years into his like you probably should have finished by now PhD. And I can definitely remember when I was finally allowed in like the grad student lounge, hearing him just go off about how everyone in his on his subject were idiots, and how he was just going to show them all wrong, they were wrong, and so on and so forth. And then I remember him showing his presentation, and like the result was, God, like it was slightly better than a coin toss. Like it was like, even I had some pretty nice instructors who were like, there's definitely a culture in econ of like eating their young, but they were definitely good at like not giving into that impulse, not creating that culture, which I appreciated. But even then, like they definitely felt compelled to, question, is this really worth a paper? Is kind of what I think the unspoken part of that was. And this is the thing, right? Like, you want that impulse. You really do want to allow people to have those like wild ideas. But I'm actually trying to remember, was it you who had recommended David Foster Wallace? It was definitely somebody who recently recommended David Foster Wallace. And the weird thing is while I haven't read his stuff, I have seen some interviews with him. And I do remember him saying that he remembered this period when he had English instructors who were, he definitely felt that they were just suppressing his genius and, just, getting in the way. And of course, with the benefit of hindsight, I mean, this is a guy who's considered to be a, someone innovating in terms of the English language, and a very skilled writer, while also, pushing forward what we think can be done with the English language, with the written word. But he said, I think this is a Charlie Rose interview, like he fully admits that, the stuff I was writing wasn't good, and they were identifying it, and they weren't suppressing the novel ideas. They were identifying the weakness in what was being done. But, this is the difficulty, right? Is that, the talent is seeing, where things can be better, that, and where you can push out that frontier, and being able to do that. And like sometime, somebody's got to have the idea first, right? Or maybe you're not even the first person to ever have the idea, but like, to your knowledge, there's no precedent for it. And if all the people within your social network haven't had it, it's as good as being the first one to have that idea for the purposes of the reception. So there's just that really fine line between, wanting to push that frontier forward, while also closing yourself off to the benefit of experience and what those people who have done the work and sort of have the scars to show for it. And again, I mean, I'm sorry to report. I mean, I do sometimes like to believe that there's a little justice in the world, because the guy was really intolerable. But I think he did eventually get his PhD, but he definitely was not the high flyer he thought he was, let's say. Which is a shame, right? Like, I suppose I should be a little more kind and say that, what a shame that this person was not able to achieve the thing that they were very excited about. But on the other hand, there's a lot of people who get excited about a lot of things but don't need to be jerks about it. So, but anyways. But yes, well, you don't feel like your genius is being suppressed. You claim to have average intelligence for a university student. I actually feel like your growth is being suppressed. But that said, I do want criticism. And in tech, when you start a company, you're hiring people. People are very reluctant to criticize you, and that's not the case in academia. Yeah, again, there's always trade-offs. There's better and worse ways of handling this stuff. I have found I do need to. I want polite coworkers, but I do know there are some things that I'm respected in terms of my knowledge on, and I don't want to act like I'm somebody who's like, oh, you're all scared of me because I'm so smart, because that's not true, first of all. But I do want to make sure that people don't feel like they're going to be made to feel small for challenging something, right? And so there have actually been a couple of times where I don't just ask for peer review, but I ask for, like, did I convince you? You know, where is this weak? It's almost like, I hate to say it, but it's like prompt engineering.
For those of you who don't know how I spent my formative years, I was born, bred, and buttered right here in Two Point County before attending what was then called Two Point University. I think it's still called that now, but it was then too. Right, top draw anecdotes coming up, but first, here's another toe tapper.
Now taking students for Scientography.
There are ways of speeding this up, but 7 students? 8 students? They're carpooling? You're going to leave that in there?
In the science lab.
Look at that. The students are in their very first class. Who knows what will happen? Do you want to watch the instruction, or do you want to watch the... Look at all this science happening. As students learn, they gain academic or experience points, or XP, which will increase their academic level.
Frequently asked questions. I believe that smell is you. Despite the rumors, the campus grounds are not a toilet.
You know, that's actually an interesting point that you raise as well. So the other challenge is that just cultural difference, classicists and philosophers just have approached differently than business people and tech workers, and you have to learn that. You're also used to spontaneously discussing ideas on the fly as they come up, or have gestated for a while and just dropping by someone's office to talk about it. I found that academics hate that. It's a culture fit problem. For sure. But I mean, the other thing I will say, my experience, and again, this is more so driven by economics, but I don't think it's exclusive to that. But I do tend to find that there are a lot of instances, and again, I don't want to just limit it to economics, but it's what I'm familiar with, where some of the most exciting developments do tend to come from the cross-discipline activity. So for instance, you know, if we're talking about behavioral economics, that is the combination of sort of psychology and economics. My own background, political economy, similar ideas, right? Some political science and economics. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. And I know there are some people who really don't like that, right? There's this whole idea of like economic imperialism where like economics is just going and taking all these other social sciences, which, you know, have their own background, and instead the economists are just kind of coming in and telling everybody what's what. Now, I've heard some sociologists talk about how economists are supposed to look at the economy, and I don't think that that's exclusive to economics, but I will say that they at least give the appearance of having more influence in the wider world. And so I think to a certain extent, at the very least, if there's going to be that perception, then there is going to be, I think there's going to be an understandable reaction to that, let's say. But I think it's fair to say that it's probably not limited to economics. And I think in general that the better we get, the more educated we get, the less low-hanging fruit there is, the less that there's going to be, I just need to read, Phaedrus, a really unique way, and I'm going to have an insight on Plato that no one's ever had before. I don't think it quite works that way. Maybe that's actually a really bad example because, like, at the very least, in terms of economics, like you could, I don't know, like people have had near infinite wants and finite resources and the need to satisfy them. And there have been societies that don't have any conception of economics in general. I guess so, Underwater Monk. I'm not 100% sure. But all of that to say, right, like one of the ways that I think in general, whether you're writing fiction or whether you're studying something, in general, if you have this collision of two different ideas, that can very often force a change in perspective. And as a result, you wind up with an idea that people can get excited about. And so it doesn't always fit very well. For instance, if you like playing first-person shooters, the idea of a turn-based first-person shooter might be a complete clash with what you like about that genre. Or you might wind up with something like Superhot. And Superhot is one of these things that I think respects what people like about the feeling of first-person shooters while also being able to provide some of the deliberation that you get from turn-based strategy or, pausable games like 2 Point Campus. Again, I apologize for being so chatty tonight. So as with anything, you find that balance in terms of the positive features that come from that more, I'm going to maybe venture to say, entrepreneurial environment that you're in, Mr. on Hysteron, recognizing the benefits that come from it. And I think for the most part, this is the sort of thing we only really get to appreciate in hindsight. But I kind of have to feel that sometimes it's just that question of being able to like identify. It's like, okay, so what were like the load bearing, like what are the supports of this structure, right? Sometimes having that like sacrosanct space where you are not like going into somebody's office and like riffing off of ideas. Like I happen to really like that too. So, I would feel a little constrained to be in that place. But for some people, like that uninterrupted time to think about the problem is sacrosanct. That's where the magic happens. And so there's that. But on the other hand, right, this is such a bad stereotype, but I think it could work. Like, I also imagine that like a move fast and break things approach in some cases may not actually be that bad in some departments, right? If you're on an archaeological site, terrible idea. But if you're like writing something, right? The worst that happens is you crumple up the paper and toss it in the garbage. I mean, there's the cost of time, but there's a payoff, right? Being willing to take on a set of ideas that maybe don't always have a guaranteed payoff, but they potentially have a much larger payoff in the end. Sometimes there's value in doing that. It's I'm trying to think of like a good way of illustrating this, but like I can do I can do like a set of projects with which I am like certain I'm going to be able to get them done. If you sit me down with basic arithmetic, I have like I'm going to give like probably a near perfect result. I mean, I'm capable of dumb mistakes as much as the next person, but for the most part, like simple arithmetic, learned it in grade school. I've always been able to add numbers together ever since I learned it the first time. And everybody with a smartphone, actually not even a smartphone, anybody with a functioning phone will be able to do that faster than me. Not a useful question to ask, right? It's one that I'm certain on, but maybe not one that's important to do. And again, I'm kind of reaching for an example here, right? Like in the end, I think you're gonna have a read of the environment that you find yourself in and what you think you can do within the confines. And the one thing I would say, the one thing that I think is underappreciated by some of these constraints, or at least what feel like constraints, are that they prevent you from going down paths that waste your time or effort. But number two, they are a little bit of a training on how to think about a problem, right? So I like esoteric programming languages, right? So like one of the things that I needed to do in Code Wars, I needed to write a bfunge 93 interpreter. I really like doing that. And like, I think intercal is very fun. I like satire. So like intercal was practically a love language for me. I think Malbolge is cool as hell, but I will never even remotely try to understand it. And then like Piet, I think is kind of a neat idea. I do like bfunge just because the idea of the two-dimensional programming language. And like, I've always wondered, like for me, if I had some kind of contribution to make of the idea of like a proper esoteric programming language, as in you need to be initiated into the mysteries, that there is some component that can only be transmitted orally to one of the initiates in order to make the language function. And I wanted to see if I could do something around that, but I mean, I also just want to be a competent programmer. So, there's some fun with that. And I think it's nice to run off and do those sort of things, because like sometimes they get you thinking in a different way about programming languages. But if you want to get the work done, probably what you want to do is stick to a few, let's say, consensus languages. Now, like Goldman Sachs is going to use like Erlang for some things. And I know Jane Street somewhat famously uses OCaml. So more like probably the closer you get to quant shops, the closer you get to like these exotic programming languages and that. But like, Java, C#, C++, C, Python, depending like what you're doing, where these are reasonably safe bets. And, some ideas like, using typing to, I used to not do that in Python, but then I'm sort of like, it does, VS Code does help me more when I use typing. So I will be grouchy about it, but like, I'll do it here. And, like that's the thing for me, right? Like I actually started in, at university, I did a class which was taught in a simple version of Scheme. So my first exposure to programming, and like really probably the one that I understand the best, was basically a functional language. And I know about objects. I can use objects. I've done, a course that was largely done in Java. I mean, we were responsible for learning it, but Java's not, it's not Mount Everest. It's, you can handle it, especially if you've got some background. Oh, that's really cool that you got to do C in a class. Yeah, I actually have the Kiernan and Ritchie book. I think that is a wonderful book. Like, I wouldn't read it to do modern C, but as a book, it is quite a slim but very well written book for teaching. It's one that I go back to just try and understand like how So and you know what, here's the funny thing. Like I've never found that book for like less than $50. So I've like always borrowed it from libraries. But I like at an old workplace I went to, they had a library and it was just sitting there on the like, we're getting rid of these, you can take it for yourself. I couldn't believe my eye. Like I genuinely thought somebody like misshelved the book. But it was like, no, it wasn't even a copy of the library book. It was like somebody had a copy of that they're like, I don't need this anymore. And they just put it on the shelf. So I got this like absolute gem for literally nothing. But that's like, I know it's such a cliche, but like this truly was one man's junk is another man's treasure in this case. So I would argue most people's treasure in the case of that particular book, but yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so it's, again, like, I guess where I was going with all of that is to say that like sometimes there are those conventions that exist because they are essential to the discipline, and sometimes, when in Rome, sorry, do the you really do need to adapt your own style. But I would probably recognize that your own background does potentially give you a unique perspective, and that there is something worth preserving there, even while you adopt the customs of your department, because that's going to be more conducive to your particular learning. But I'm also assuming that this is like stuff you already know. Like in the end, it's your education, so I'm pretty sure you're able to function in your department without me saying any of that. All right, they did it. The students passed their first class. Sadly, they didn't do that all that well. It seems a number of them were distracted by one need or the other. A student that has everything they need will be more happy, less distracted, and able to focus on their studies in an enthusiastic and cheerful haze.
When it comes to food,
a student's needs, such as their thirst or toilet comfort, will affect their overall happiness. Happy students perform better in classes and earn more XP. Take a look at our campus and see what we can do to improve the campus.
But I'll never forget that time at university when I lived off.
The key to campus hospitality is to remember the 3 R's. Students. Sorry, it's really tough to talk over the dialogue.
Your body is a temple, and you wouldn't fill a temple with crisps.
The key to campus hospitality is to remember the 3 R's. Students need somewhere to relax themselves, to rest themselves, and to relieve themselves. Sure, 2 of those might sound like the same thing, but it does sound convincing. Let's build a dormitory and a bathroom to keep people comfortable. All right, students sleep to regain their energy. Keep students happy by decorating their dormitory and providing at least 1 bed for every 5 students. I don't know if we have a number for students here. But I did see a number that said 10, so we need to make sure we have at least 2 beds. I mean, we could probably get away with a... Well, we should at least give them 1 window. Let's try and improve the... Where'd I put the door? Gotta put the propaganda right in the first thing you see. There we go. All right. I guess we need a bathroom too. Out with the old, in with the new. Relieves toilet need, improves hygiene, minimum size 2x1. I mean, we don't need to make a luxurious bathroom, but... Probably too many toilets, to be honest, but... Do I want to try and fit a plant in here as well? I should probably leave it.
From Smell My Cash.
Did you hear that? I think our students might be hungry. Traditionally, campuses offer a range of food and drink to, you know, sustain life. Let's add some vending machines.
Smell My Cash for students. Sure, you have to pay it back, but that's future use problem.
It doesn't matter how desperate you are. No urinating on campus facilities.
If it were up to the students, I'm sure we'd all be living in our own filth. Luckily, they have very little say in the matter. Let's hire a janitor and keep the place a bin to keep things nice and tidy. All right, we've got Martin Vape, Jason Woodstone, and Sebastian Gray. Aerodynamics boosts movement speed, maintenance boosts maintenance skill, and happy thoughts makes themselves smile. I think we might want to go for Sebastian Gray. Okay, nope, sorry. Weak bladder, lollygagger. Okay, Martin Vape.
Student housing should be character building. Pleasant.
Let's see how the students do in their next class. Peckish and thirsty. It's hard to tell if the goth is happy or not. Ah, they're getting a little better. We'll give them some privacy. These two should become friends because they have the same outfit.
Announcement. Healthy body, healthy mind. I came up with that.
Oh, I should probably go to normal speed. They're over there! Also, apparently 3 stalls was not enough. How many students do I have? 1, 2, 3. This is going to be hard to count. Okay, 3 in the bathroom, 2 in the dorms, 3 in the hall, 4 in the hall? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have more than 10.
Ricky Hawthorne. On 2 Point Radio. One summer, some friends and I headed north on a fisherman's pilgrimage to Tumble. I tell you, there's no freedom like it. Just a group of mates, their matching bucket hats, and a case of antique fishing flies. Pure bliss.
Scientography lecture starting now.
Okay, so we got 5 students in the Scientography lecture. Interesting. We've got 5 in the dorms. Okay, so we've got a total of 10 students. That's fine. And I did say, like, two beds for 5, so I think we can work this out. Happiness is improving. Teacher just... All right, so this is actually a good time to catch up on the chat. So I guess I'm trying to be flexible about not committing to a particular topic. The other issue is having too many interests confuses people, and I'm just not sure how to brand yourself. I have a lot of interests in a lot of things that you excel at, but if you don't know me, it may come off as wishy-washy or somebody who's a braggart. Again, in tech, very easy to sell yourself, but I know what to avoid mentioning in an interview and fundraising. Yeah, I mean, again, to me, all roads keep going back to my major. So, you know, in this case, one of the most useful concepts that I can understand, like your situation with in terms of a framing, is the idea of comparative advantage. So, you know, one of the things I'll appreciate about, you know, so like there's just a bunch of very, personally, I find off-putting, but there's a certain amount of braggadocio coming from certain members of the United States administration in terms of the, you know, the capabilities of the United States as a producer. And one of the things that can be very frustrating when people get, you know, understandably upset with what's being said, is to just immediately have them sort of reflexively say, no, they can't, right? I understand why it's very, like, why you have that impulse to want to say, no, you can't. But the thing is that, like, the U.S. economy is a very impressive machine. It is capable of doing a lot of things. But it is simultaneously true that it's going to be the best at one thing, right? That's why it's the best. You know, there's going to be one thing that it produces. I mean, I'm speaking in abstract terms here, but like there are things that it is so good at that it produces the most value, that it can then trade that very valuable thing with everybody else and, you know, still come out ahead. Right. I'm largely I mean, everybody kind of knows these arguments about trade here. That's necessarily the case, right? Because again, there are the things that we are all the best at that we do. It doesn't mean we can't do other things. It doesn't mean that we are not capable of those other things. But it does mean that if we want to consider the best use of our time, right, we are going to decide a certain thing. And then, of course, preference will decide. Like, again, it's, you know, I might be the best at eating, but I don't like sit down and like eat all the time. And, you know, I might be okay at coming up with the occasional turn of phrase in the right frame of mind. But that's the thing, right? Right frame of mind, you know, I'm not going to make a living as like, I'm definitely not going to make it as a comedian. I might be able to, you know, on commission, like do a passable piece of creative writing or whatever. So all that to say, and I think some of the challenges that you may be facing in terms of your department, of course, would be that people are going to want to say, you know, you're going to spend this much time on an idea. You want to make sure that it is that one that you are providing sort of this unique benefit for. And where I think probably, again, that more entrepreneurial side can be helpful with is that it is very good for doing that search, right? You do get to sort of put some feelers out. You kind of get to see roughly what the contours of the problem are. And then I imagine probably what the question is just finding a good way to sort of snip off those, you know, the ones that are less productive. Or maybe not even snip them off in the sense of doing so permanently, but maybe there are some that will find a home in your current circumstance, and that some of the other ones, you know, once you found your sea legs, once you have a little bit more autonomy, maybe then you'll be able to revisit those. But I absolutely know the problem, because if if you are going in lots of different directions, some people will recognize that as a positive thing that's allowing you to you read broadly and understand subjects in a unique way. And then on the other hand, as you say, that can maybe come off as wishy-washy, or it may come off as indecisive. And particularly if you're in this kind of search mode, which I think you are in terms of finding sort of a home and an advisor, you probably don't want to commit to something too early until you have that solid foundation. But I mean, obviously, it can be a bit of a catch-22, because if people are not interacting with you because of what they perceive as wishy-washiness, I'm pretty sure that you drill down on a particular topic if you thought that it was more like, if you had that not foundation, but if you had that connection to sort of see it through to the end. And if you're looking for someone to act as an advisor, I'm not entirely sure you're at that point yet. All right, well done. Those students look smarter already. The campus, the better they do, the more money you'll have to fund the campus. Who's smart now? Yes, you receive tuition fees from all students enrolled in courses at the campus, as well as a bonus for how much XP they're earning.
As a surprise to some of you,
satisfying student needs is just one way to improve our grades. Next on the agenda is a spot of studying. Luckily, the students have just been given their first assignments. Completing assignments is a great way for students to earn some XP away from the classroom, though it looks like they need some new facilities. Check your inbox to see what they need.
When he tried taking registration the next morning, well, the man was livid. Unfortunately, two of the boys were expelled for breaking and entering. Don't trespass, kids.
Welcome to your inbox, a place to check on student requests, disaster warnings, and upcoming visits. Some campus issues are time sensitive, so keep an eye out for new messages. Library required. Assignment request from Piper McGuffin. Library orientation. Look at these books. Library, 9 people agree, so everybody on the campus wants a library, and we got to do it in 60 days. I will build you a room.
Showering is technically but not socially optional.
Okay. It says room capacity 8, but we'll work with it. I guess the question is, how big do I want to make the library? I personally would like to see a big library. I mean, that's huge, though, so... I think we can manage a 4x3 here. Again, it's not immediately clear to me. I like some of these descriptions, by the way. It's not immediately clear, like, what the needs are in terms of the students. So, like, where it said, you need 1 bed for every 5. Is that true for, like, bookshelves? Is that true for computer cubicles? But I will actually start reading these out because I'm liking some of these descriptions. So, computer cubicle, insecure in public. Bookcase, words arranged in a specific order. Library reception, shh, I'm trying to read. Study cubicle, but is it too quiet? Textbook cubicle, newfangled book learning. A door, book display, staff recommendations, large window, library notice board, years in the making. And a bin. A load of rubbish. Hand sanitizer. Never heard of it. All right. Let's... 4 of these. We're definitely going to be fighting for space on this one, but... I probably overdid it on some of the... I think we need a plant. Hire an assistant and complete an assignment at the library. All right. We've got Vince Bamshoot, Ace Villain, and Georgie Porridge. So all of them are good managers, but Vince Bamshoot has comic timing. So dry mouth, rapid, squeaky clean. I mean, the choice is obvious.
I want to stress that I don't think a young person's life is all fishing trips and A-grade hijinkery. No. I also took a great deal of substance from the many mentors and
Some of our students are completing an assignment in the library. Completing an assignment is a great way to earn XP outside the classroom.
At university. He once told me, "Ricky, I don't think you'll ever understand what I'm saying." And he was right. A very wise man, that one.
Janitor required for groundskeeping. Thank you.
Let's see how the students do in their next class. I was curious about those numbers. Actually, again, I know I've spent a little too much time on the just chatting side of things, but I am curious on this one. While we are thinking in terms of nostalgia for school, what was your favorite course? So I want to phrase this in a particular way. What was your favorite course that wasn't in your major? Oh, sorry. I missed a couple things in here. So we've got Underwater Monk asking, can you add exterior doors? An entrance through the library would be neat. Oh, that's a good question. I didn't actually try. We should be able to add more. Yeah, so it looks like it says here that this is an invalid exit. So I could try. We can try in the science lab as well, just because we don't have windows in the way. Yeah, but it looks like in this case we actually need to use the assigned exits in the game. So I think in this case the answer to that's no. Although I am going to change around the. I think I'm going to have to change the location for the bulletin board. Because if I want to take advantage of this space, we're not going to be able to have the door here. Anyway, sorry. So, and then Mr. Anhistron says, yes, you're right. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to focus on that part, my favorite words. I don't know what do you want to dedicate yourself to as a researcher. However, I do value having strong language skills, and that's what you're focusing on right now. Greek and Latin, yes. But I do want to expand to some other classical languages. It's possible that these language skills themselves could end up being the thing that you bring value as a researcher and not some of your other ideas. I think that's a really good way of looking at it too. Because I mean, the other thing is like there is an advantage. So this is like why I did some of the math stuff for economics, right? Which was, you know, I didn't necessarily know I was going to do political economy. And it's not the only thing I know, by the way, right? Like, so I know price index theory quite well. I'm maybe not like big on industrial organization, but I do have some of the textbooks. And I feel like if someone were to like get me to bone up on that, I would probably be able to understand. But yeah, I mean, like the good foundational ones, like another good example of this would be like, if you don't want to go work for Google or Amazon, probably it's miserable to take a data structures and algorithms course. But on the other hand, like, you know, it's good stuff to learn, right? Like it's the difference between being able to bang out like a passable Python project that does the thing that you want and like being able to think about how this thing would work at scale and so on and so forth. And it's just a very different way of thinking, which in some cases can be very beneficial because I'm not necessarily going to think in those terms on my own. Underwater Monk is speaking my language here, so I'm glad. It's always, I find it very funny when people ask me if I was like a micro or macro guy. I'm like, it's all economics. It's like, usually the good macro is micro founded. So, and physics. I actually wish I took physics, but yeah, I imagine physics is quite challenging.
Lovely walk down memory lane. Before we go, I just wanted to remind you that glory days aren't just for the young amongst us. In truth, there's nowhere I'd rather be than here, with you, at 2 Point Radio. Today's show was sponsored by Bungle Kitty Litter, the litter tray that'll make your critter's day.
Showering is technically but not socially optional.
I particularly like this theme. This is the other thing. I haven't really talked about this for this game, but like it has just the right kind of wacky, right? So like, you probably wouldn't necessarily think of having Wulfric Half Moon in the class with the dark aura trait. Youths and their handshakes, and the science machine, right? So rather than actually doing formal science classes, you have the giant science machine at the University of Science. So it's it's nice, it's lighthearted.
Doesn't matter how desperate you are. No urinating on campus facilities.
But it's still close enough. Like it still hits the mark, and it does make me feel like I play this game with a smile on my face. It's one that I like. I like being able to see, friendships being formed. I like seeing people being able to explore certain ideas. There's a pretty good talk about how to give a talk from an MIT prof. And he uses as one of his examples is the really, really famous physics lectures. I wish I remembered the guy's name, but the best example here is he takes like a weight and he, when introducing the idea, actually holds the weight to his face. I don't think it's Feynman, but like holds the weight to his face and releases it. And like the problem with doing and it's on a string, so like it goes across the room and swings back, and like it doesn't like kiss his chin. It's like, because that's not how physics works. But it's a near thing, right? And of course, what's beautiful about that illustration is that this is a level of conviction in our understanding of physics that, I mean, I don't know if you're putting your life on the line, but you're definitely putting a very expensive dentist trip, an extremely painful one. I think it is actually. Let me, you know what? I'm going to look it up. Sorry, I'm just going to tab out for a minute here. I've already not made progress, so I don't think this is going to be too much. Yes, it is. It is Walter Lewin, For the Love of Physics. No, I mean, like, I think the big challenge with this one is that if you try and recreate it, I think the standard problem with that example is it's actually quite difficult not to add a little extra force to the weight. So if you push it away from you, you are gonna get a face full of metal or whatever it's made out of. That's not a good time. But done properly, of course, it will never hit you. But with that in mind, like, you can watch that video and you will just feel the tension in the room as people watch this thing.
Janitor needed to
All right, your students have gone from C-grade chumps to B-grade B-grade brainheads. Let's recap how you did it, shall we? Educate, provide better staff and facilities to improve your students' grades. Nurture, make students happy and comfortable to increase their learning rate. Expand, earn more cash by growing your campus and enrolling more students. I understand. Congratulations, you've earned some kudosh for completing objectives. Spend kudosh to unlock new items, as well as staff outfits and interior design options. We've got 230. So park bin, trash can bin, frog bin. I like frogs. Morselman machine. Amuse your mind as well as your mouth. Lower healthiness, lower toilet comfort.
Your
Morselmania.
finger is not a toothbrush.
Cheesy Gubbin Zero machine. Pulpitation machine. Biscuits and Bobs, all bark and no bites. Spring meal. I'm actually inclined to fresh like the season. I'm slightly inclined towards or Hoglog's kiosk combines 4 types of wheat with the salty crunch of a
taking your medication.
crispy pork skin.
For the Harrison Wolf Show here on 2 Point Radio, and it's gonna be a wild ride. Yo and hello, it's Harrison Wolf coming at you with the dulcet sounds of the underground. We've got a good one for you today, but first, I should probably turn some lights on. Fully Enlightened Radio, coming up next.
Claw at Love Machine wanted. Oh, we should have done this. Elf Panther and Wolfric Half Moon, we can finally see what's been abundantly clear to everybody else, that we might as well try dating. All right, finish the year. Use everything you've learned to help your students pass the year. Can we do this? Hey, Starheart Dragon, thank you very much for the follow. And we have got It Is D-Pain in the channel. Thank you for your raid, sir. Very healthy raid. How are you doing? What were you playing? Should we do the Claw at Love Machine? Outside the bathroom. Truly the place for expressions of affection. We can put this outside the dorms. I'm thoroughly enjoying 2 Point Campus. For those of you who do not know, we've got It Is D-Pain here, wonderful broadcaster. I haven't seen you do a cooking stream recently. Is this just because I'm bad at attending, or are you changing things up? Anyways, I know him best through his Pointless Discourse podcast with Apocalypse. Doesn't necessarily mean I don't think there's been a recent episode, or maybe I missed them. But anyways, they've invited me on a couple of times. I ramble about movies too much. I saw Santa Jaws, something I would not have seen otherwise, but for their introduction to that. But in any case, definitely somebody who I like hanging out with on Twitch. Somebody who has actually been quite generous with their time and their raids. And somebody I wanted to at least bring to your attention, let's say. If you all would like to participate in the question I just posed to the people already in the channel here, are asking, what class outside of your major did you enjoy most in your education? Doing well. You're playing some Traveler TTRPG. Which version? So first of all, this is 2 Point Campus, so there's no hospital construction. And on top of that, I am fascinated by Traveler. So the first question I need to ask you, were you playing the Mongoose one? Were you playing, probably not Traveler 5, which I like in principle and find an utterly baffling document to read. Um, but what made you play Traveler? Okay. Use everything you've learned to help your students pass the year. Staff room. We'll build that in a minute. I'm tempted to build the staff room here. It just feels like this. I don't know. All right, let's change it up. I'm going to take this. Guess I can't put this outside. Okay, staff room. And apparently I need to find a way to employ more people. Put the dartboard right above the. So not put it by the door. Not put it by the. I'm surprised there isn't a television nearby. So we'll put the dartboard up here. Maybe put the coffee table in here. Gotta say, we got more seating than we have staff, but let's not worry about that. Cubby holes. Just take the darts and put them on the staff room notice post. Rooms to let and cellos to buy. It's already level 4, so I think if we go any higher, the students will revolt. Okay. So I guess the tricky part I'm running into here is it's not immediately clear what other services we need for the campus. But maybe what I can do, actually, let's start. Maybe what we should do here is we should consider the student needs. I'm sure there's a way for me to identify that. Yeah, so we need more help. Okay, you know what? There's a couple things I'm going to do. So first of all, let's take we'll sort by grade. Let's find the ones who are not at 100% yet. Now, first of all, they're all first years. So we need better health. And I think I need to make the rooms better. But I'm guessing like everybody's just spectacularly unhealthy. Okay, so there's a couple things we'll do here. Can make a shower room. Character building co-ed nightmare. Okay, actually there's a couple things we can do here. So we can do a shower room. else do we need? You do start the game off with 500,000. You're playing the 2022 update. Okay, so Mongoose. But you're going to have to lurk for a bit while you close things down with the players. Yeah, no problem. And hey, Vanguard Master, it looks like your old campus. I didn't know they made a game about it. Where'd you go to school? So I can judge you accordingly. And Ecorb says a little bit late, but McRaids with pain. That's not late at all. So I think it probably, depending on the scenario, you may start off with a little more or a little less. But we are going to change things up a bit. So I don't mind having a nice big student lounge. Okay. I think probably another garbage can is in order here, just to... You know, for all them student symposiums. There we go. That's... what a beautiful, beautiful room. Okay, let's work on that. We got like a healthy snack at some point. Yeah, so the Hoglog kiosk. I think we can work with that. And of course we need to hire an assistant for this. Jacob Doolittle. You're hired. So, what's the last staff member I'm going to add? Maybe we'll try and add a few more things to make the campus a bit more attractive. We'll unpause and slow it down.
What can I do to be more subversive? And I say, first things first, you gotta throw out that question. There's nothing less punk than asking for instructions. You gotta take out the toy, burn the manual, and use the box to make yourself a groovy fort. That being said, today I'll be dishing out some details on how to be a more subversive you.
It doesn't matter how desperate you you are. No urinating on campus facilities.
I mean, I could hire another janitor, I suppose. Because I'm definitely out of the kudosh now. Yeah, so in the interests of do Mervyn Moose. Yep, this'll work. Complete 2 assignments. Students will send requests to your inbox when they need help with an assignment. Place room item.
Believe that smell is
Okay.
you.
I might make a second and bigger library if it comes down to it. Didn't put any plants in the...
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Uh-oh. Well, the XP bonus got us, saved us, so... But yeah, we're paying too much in staff wages. So the tuition fees don't cover our staff wages right now. But then the game also sort of forced me into that, so I think I'll get over it.
Hey, roll with me here. Breakfast is a concept. You think it's real, but it's just another lesson taught to you by the man in an attempt to structure your day. That's why when I wake up, I
Satisfy
like a big
2
bowl of
personal
pasta
goals and
and a
develop 2
tall
best friend
lemonade.
friendships. I feel like we
Take
have all the
that,
conditions we need to do
establishment.
that. The government subsidies? Have we achieved full communism? Yeah, I think I maybe would have wanted a bigger library. Oh. Sacre bleu.
Rumors. The campus grounds are not a toilet.
I mean, I guess I could survey the... You! What are your personal goals? Oh, it says it in the email. Okay, well, never mind then. Yeah, I don't know that much about... I actually don't know that much about finances for universities. It's only a small negative. I'm happy to see all this develop, but I am a little curious about these personal goals.
Lovely.
Don't mind me, students. That's right, don't become friends. You just sit there and ponder that fruit. We have 3 months to worry about the gold. We're expecting a weed infestation on campus. Haha.
Attention. Your finger is not a toothbrush.
There are a lot of jobs for janitors around campus. Consider hiring some janitors. I'm not sure that's a good idea.
What am I going to do with my life? I just don't know.
Orb.
Huh? What?
Come to an Orb Foundation Learning Center and replace your mind with the power of the Orb.
Oh, amazing. I'll do that then. Thanks.
We've got 2 students, which is fair enough. I wish there was an idea of how many, like, what the queue looked like for janitor jobs.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
I choose to believe this was the teacher just giving advance warning. I don't know what this red button means. Dormitory wanted. Okay. I mean, one possible option here is I expand the dormitory, but it did say...
Assistant to the library. Thank you.
You know what, we can just copy this. Doesn't quite work that way, does it? Yeah, it's funny. Everybody's abandoned, like, the original dormitory. I don't know what to make of that. Okay, we're in the black.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
This can only end well. Do not taste the cube. All right, we got 1 more month to satisfy a goal. We're not, sadly, we're not yet at A+ students.
Despite the rumors, the campus grounds are not a toilet.
Apparently lacking entertainment and health. So our weakest performer is Piper McGuffin, also lacking in entertainment and health. Okay, I mean, let's do what we can on the entertainment front.
Clothes are a great way to express your individuality. Some people go to a lot of effort, and I can dig that. There was a time when the Wolfman spent a lot of time on his outwardness. But that all changed when I accidentally put on
Gloomsday
mismatched
Book.
shoes the morning after a party, and the compliments started rolling in.
Congratulations,
I'm
you
not
finished the
dressed in
academic
dark
year.
since.
Let's
Just
head to
you,
the end of
the
year
boy,
awards to celebrate and
something
see
that
how
could
we
be
did.
asleep.
All right, 85% average exam results, 100% pass. Nobody's graduating, 10 are continuing. Nobody dropped out.
Live
Adequate.
dangerously, my dudes.
The summer break is the perfect time to prepare for the year ahead, build facilities, make unsustainable design choices, and bask in last year's glory. Let's expand our range of courses by starting a virtual normality course. Virtual normality. A new era of technology is here, and it's sure to redefine the way you think about goggles. Students can experience being where they're not, like never before. Discover new worlds or practice tying your shoes, all in the comfort and privacy of the virtual realm. Soon we'll have another group of students joining the campus. It's important to expand with our ever-growing student body. Buy a new plot for your second year on campus. I mean, I thought I bought it. No! What are you doing? Did I buy this thing or not? Okay, yes, 6 days. I get it. Okay, we need to do another lecture theater, VR lab, virtual normality teacher, and another
The
scientography.
academic year is over. Students must vacate the campus.
Let's copy this one as best as we can. Ah! Before starting the new year, be sure to check any unresolved campus requirements.
It doesn't matter how desperate you are. No urinating on campus facilities.
This feels like it's really crammed in. There we go. Apparently we can do even more learning.
I like to do one thing every day that chills me to my core. It puts the key in anarchy, or it's the key to anarchy or something. Anyway, it's important. This morning, I ate some chocolate mousse that had been on the counter for days. Was I scared? Of course I was. I'd pushed the limits. I'd broken the rules. They don't want you to eat the warm mousse, my friends. And isn't that reason enough?
Okay, let's find the invalid items. Ah. How's school building going? Do you have all the funding you need? We're expanding. We're expanding and making poor, poor design choices. All right. Let's do. Oh yeah, and I should hire another teacher. All right, we've got Emma Latrine, Herbert Itch, Blake Mouth, and Esther Custard. So, Squeaky Clean, lost their cool. Herbert Itch, bin blindness, mispronounces banal or banal. Iron Bladder and Squeaky Clean. I mean, it's the same recruitment fee for all of these. So let's go for Blake Mouth. Now, I'm probably overdoing it on dorms here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up this room.
Janitor required for groundskeeping. Thank you.
We'll see whether or not that works. I'm actually not opposed to duplicating the student lounge. Copying the showers is going to be a little trickier, but we can manage. I guess we'd have to sell a window. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it's a little weird how that worked.
Unraveling the mysteries of life. Questions like, where's the bathroom? And can I have a bite? But questions can also daze and confuse. Next time someone puts you on the spot, throw it back at them with a, I don't know, do you? Whoa, man, that'll change a person.
We're going to need to make sure we do a library as well. But you know what? Let's make a nice, generous VR room.
Despite the rumors, the campus grounds are not a toilet.
We're at 3. We could probably do a little more. All right, so let's hire a VR instructor. So Aussie Factory's probably the best. Well, we've got Hugo Buzzkill, Rapid Bin Blindness, Iron Bladder, or Gross. Yeah, Hugo Buzzkill will.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets.
And then we need, at minimum, a lecture theater, but I think we're going to also go for a library. So, you know what? I'm slightly inclined to just copying. Yeah. Easier said than done, but that'll work. And then we will also build a pretty generous library in this one. Well, okay, relative to what we've got.
Announcement. Healthy body, healthy mind. I came up with that.
That's a pity. Thought we might be able to sneak in a little bit more, but all right. Let's try and do 2 of each.
I'll leave you with the first and last rule to a subversive life. A healthy disdain for authority.
We don't actually
I go
have
home 5 minutes early every day just to
a
show
librarian.
the boss that's what's up. Sometimes I even come in on my day off. They don't know up from down. And that's how I like it. You don't have to listen to nobody. Should you listen to me? Where's the bathroom? Can I have a bite? Think about it.
Library requesting assistant.
Okay. The Secret Arcade. I think I can live with that. I'm not ready to start the academic year yet. I want to try and work on the health. Cheesy Gubbin Zero machine. No cheese, no taste, no point.
Students are reminded that virtual reality is more virtual than reality.
Anything for drinks? You know what? We can put that in the... Alright, did we get any more assistance? Homer Rake! Get to work.
Students eating rubbish are reminded that you are what you eat.
I think we are ready to start the new year. Are you sure you want to start the year with the following courses? So we'll get another 10 students for... Oh dear. Yes, but I'm going to add another dormitory. Personal goal request, Randy Fenderson. Did you know that some students sit around all day? It's true. May I suggest then additional seating options? Thank you for your time. And 5 people agree. We're gonna place the hell out of these park benches.
Welcome to the start of a new year. I'll be your host. Hello.
Relationship item request between Felix Colossus and Dave Rainbow. I couldn't figure out why I was suddenly so nervous about my friend. Now I understand. Unlock a love bench with 25 kudosh. I think we can work with this. What is the best place for love? Indoors. Hide it. Can't do an angled one, huh?
Students for virtual normality.
Actually, you know what? I like the idea of there being, like, hidden... You go off to a discreet place for the love bench. Did you know that some students sit around all day? It's true. May I suggest then additional seating options? Thank you for your time. Okay, crescent bench it is. How do I want to make this work? You know what? Let's do this by... have them
Announcement.
facing
Healthy
out.
body, healthy mind. I came up with that.
There you go. So yeah, we like blew through half our original budget there, but I think we got a pretty good campus here. Thank you very much. It's T-Pain. Always good to see you. Sorry if I was a little more quiet on this.
You're
I'm
listening
quite
to
absorbed
Campus
by this.
Radio, the sound of student life in 2 Point County. I'm Felicity Bellbottom.
And we're turning a
Now,
profit.
everyone has been talking about the campus supermarket and their brand new frozen treats, but we'll be wading through the fudge to look at the story of 2 students crushed under the weight of free toppings. Stick around.
Bookworms. Bookworms are drawn to the county's campuses like flightless moths to a flaming hot page turner. A colony of bookworms once devoured Smogly Library's entire teen fiction section in a matter of minutes. Nowadays, the county's books are treated with worm-resistant jelly to prevent such disasters. Look out for bookworms around campus to add to your collection. Select them to receive rewards. Kudosh it is.
Despite the rumors, the campus grounds are not a toilet.
Says you. Please tell me they're not doing Scientography here. They are doing Scientography here. That they're doing virtual normality because why not? I'm curious, what does everybody think of this so far? Much as I expected, I am enjoying this as much as I remember. But just because I'm enjoying it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the most engaging for everybody to watch, because there is an unfortunate correlation between me liking something and, being a little too absorbed in the game in a way that isn't
Assistant
necessarily...
needed
All
in
right, you know,
library.
let's see if we can get a follow. Ooh, we've got some high-quality librarians here. Having all your classes in different... Yes, this is true for me as well. Actually, at my university, the economics building took over what used to be the religious study. I think it was specifically theology. I think it was Christian theology, and they didn't remove the They didn't remove any of the like stained glass or anything. Oh, I should have read some of that. So that was fun. Beautiful building. But yeah, I definitely remember doing more than a few classes in different faculties. All right, Freshly Metals. This might be frightfully exciting for you. The people of Freshly now have a second thing to be proud of.
On campus this autumn. Where have they gone? Why aren't they here anymore? Didn't there used to be flowers over there? These are just some of the many questions posed by concerned, botanically inclined students. Pinned for comment, the lead groundskeeper referenced the seasons.
This must be frightfully exciting to you. The people of Freshly now have a second thing to be proud of, to go with their canal. Bully for them. Congratulations and so on. Still, don't be too complacent. This is only your first campus, and frankly, it shows. All right, so Piazza Lantera, new campus unlocked, hot dog kiosk, coffee kiosk, whale fountain. Let us continue.
Announcement. Healthy body, healthy mind.
Okay, so we got to get to campus level 9, 150,000, average dormitory rating of 70%, and satisfy 10 personal goals. All right, so I got a few things I got to do. Let's start with the... we also got a Roach Burger kiosk. All right. Make a little food court here. So obviously we need assistance for those.
Students are reminded that you don't have to ask to go to the toilet.
Virtual Normality Open Day. A group of prospective students are interested in virtual normality and hoping to visit the campus. Absolutely. Records cubicle required. We will 100% do this. Let's make sure that goes in the other library as well. Okay, let's try and upgrade the dorms. Record rug, fancy hat stand.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
We can start with that.
It's time for the story of two students who are finding news of the campus supermarket's new ice creams difficult to swallow.
Here's a question. How many students do I have? Do I have to individually count these?
That's right. Ben and
That can't be
Sarah
right.
used to go out to the green, their hearts full of gumption, their cool box full of lollies. But it's not been the same since Campus Supermarket opened its Sunday bar and shaved ice station. They were just a couple of students looking to make some honest money in the harsh summer heat. But business has cooled off lately. As for the lollies, well, they're melting now. Spare a thought for them the next time you're enjoying a fudge sundae buy one get one free all day Wednesday at the Campus Supermarket. Fliss, back to you.
Gonna slow this down a little bit just while I get a read on I mean, it says, okay, oh yeah, if we're at 50 students, 5, 10, 15, 20,
Eating rubbish are reminded that you
25,
are
30.
what
Yeah,
you
we
eat.
definitely need more dormitories. Okay, I'm gonna change it up a little bit. So we will copy... Oh, I've really messed it up now. I'm thinking also...
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Um, tastefully done. Open Day report. The Open Day was a great success. Those students now think of us as an important part of their future, for better or worse. Okay, profit's still up. And dormitory ratings, great. So now I need to think about how I can get that.
Garden lecture theatre.
Did you see that school in Flemington that has a food market? How do I transfer? All right, we are definitely getting the smoothie kiosk. Oh yeah, I should also put some... Right, I forgot. We need more assistants. Okay, I'm not putting librarians in food kiosks. Oh, well, that settles that. But I do want to put places for people to eat. This is not good for a social table, apparently.
At Jumbo, we know it's our employees that are the big deal. That's why they get the Jumbo treatment. Mobile stationery, toilet substitute, sip of milk, leg rooms, dental surgeries, additional headrest, and our famous data system analysis training program system. Or FDAP-STAPS.
Rolls
I'm
off the
Jumbo
tongue.
McNally, and I wish I worked here.
There we go. All right, I think we can afford another janitor. Benvolio Hero.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
All right, sorry, I'm totally totally getting lost. Mysterian, gonna head out. Thanks for the stream and nice chat. Always a pleasure to chat with you as well. Great work. Freshly Meadows now boasts a first-rate academic facility. Head to the map from the pause menu and decide where to set up campus. I'm not doing that until I get my 3rd star. I've not played this before, but the people I've seen playing it seemed to have really flourished as people in the immediate aftermath. Oh, we'll put video games in your student lounge, don't you worry.
Janitor needed in library.
Does anybody have anything they want to see in this game while I'm enjoying? I mean, at this point, we're pursuing our higher stars, and in this case, I have a feeling this will be a flat flower planter. I planted some seeds the other day, but apparently that's going to take ages. How about one of these while we wait? Okay, we're starting to drop a bit on the profit.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Yeah, if anybody has anything they'd like to see inside the game, I'm happy to accommodate. At least as far as I can. I'm still learning this stuff, so... Allergy chinwag.
That's all from us here at Campus Radio. Just a reminder that if you have any interest in getting involved at the station, please do reach out. There really is a lot of airtime to fill, and try as we might, we just can't fill it all. We're open to news reports, reviews, and opinion pieces. Really just anything that will take up some dead air. Good night.
All right, let's do a quick audit of the students. Holy Xanthi! I'm not giving up on you, Xanthi. Okay, we good. Actually, do not know how to make you better at your... Career goal completed. Scientography, a multidisciplinary field that uses a range of technology to answer the biggest questions of today, like, why is that blue? Does it melt? And how long is a piece of string? We've leveled up 100 Scientography students. Grand.
Janitor needed in dormitory.
And an experiment workstation required. Thermal desking in the science lab. Well, what our students want, our students get. Do better, Xanthi. I'm not giving up on you. All of our profits coming from XP bonuses, which I'm okay with, but I want to be mindful.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Prioritize his assignments. They're not hitting the books. What are you doing? No, sit in the front. You need all the learning. I do remember one of the things I would run into as a TA is, don't we already have a Meat Wizard machine? I used to eat loads of sherbet and play Meat Wizard until my thumbs went numb. Simpler times.
Janitor required in bathroom.
I don't know why it was always like business. Well, I think I know why it was always business students, but I'd always remember people coming into office hours and being like, "What do I need to do to get an A in this course?" And like the answer is always like, study, show up to office hours, ask questions when you don't understand something. And that was never the answer people wanted. What they wanted was like a contract with which they would come back and like kick my ass if I didn't give them an A. But it's like, I'm not the one distributing the A because I like have a quota to hit. I'm doing this because, it reflects the syllabus, which is not my my call. I'm a TA, right? If the
Janitor needed
if the prof thinks you're not like getting the material, then I don't know what you want me to do. But why was it all business students? I mean, I do feel bad stereotyping, but I do feel that given the competitiveness of the the business major at UBC, and there's hoops that you need to jump through to get there, right? And sometimes it's a question of playing the angles, and again, like, I don't want to stereotype, but sometimes people are going in there because it's like this is the cheat code to make a lot of money, right? You do well in business school, you get your placement, you kind of latch on to an existing firm and get your share of the cash. What people are looking for is not the opportunity to learn. They're looking for, what's the shortest path I need to do to get the piece of paper that gets me on the next path. So, again, I want to be kind of careful saying that, because I think I've personally met some business majors who are very good at what they do. It's very clear why they're in the course, and like, I'm sure they'll make a lot of money. There's nothing inherently wrong with that.
Good morning. You're listening
But
to Ricky Hawthorne on 2.3.
but yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is that there is that tendency. The type of person that kind of major is going to attract, there's a bit of a selection problem there, I think. And of course, I was an econ TA, so they're going to have that as like a prerequisite. They're not taking it because they want to learn economics. They're taking it because that's a prerequisite for staying in the business faculty, so. Or commerce, or whatever the proper title for it was. Virtual Normality Open Day worked well last time. How is our delightful airhead doing? I'm noticing he's not in a library. This concerns me. I'm very vexed. Did we achieve something? Xanthi, you're passing! Star rating increased. Freshly Meadows 2. Your campus is certainly better than it was, but I'm left wondering, why didn't you make it this good the first time? Just something to ponder. And we have gained the bath time statue.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets.
Alright, so TJ Hunter, it would ruin my reputation if anyone knew I was talking to the big cheese, but listen, I really want one of these. Neon guitar it is. In the virtual lab? Sure. Neon guitars for everyone. If you wouldn't mind, it would be handy, as well as fine and dandy, to make the following purchase, if you have the time and would do it gladly. A family tree. We're gonna put that in all the lecture theaters. Okay, 3-star. I'm thinking we're on.
Your body is a temple, and you wouldn't fill a temple with crisps.
I think we're on a good track there. I just don't know how we level up the courses. I'm assuming we'll learn that at the end of the academic year, which is coming up. King? King? Why are all my assistants slacking off? I don't think we're really making enough profit to justify more assistants right now. Open Day report. The Open Day was a great success. Those students now think of us as an important part of their future, for better or worse.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
I do feel like there should be a way for me to...
Later in the week, I'll be talking to the Boogie Nights. Those metal-clad funk makers are equal parts gallantry and groovy music. Knights and chivalry were first popular hundreds of years ago, of course. But isn't it funny how these trends come around? Stay courtly, kids.
I think I'm just going to let this run its course. I may speed things up in a little bit, but right now I'm just going to watch the campus do its thing for the rest of the academic year. I'm interested in how we upgrade courses.
It doesn't matter.
I suppose if it really comes down to it, we can buy another plot of land.
On campus facilities.
Maybe we can't. Yes, we can. Okay, so we've got the food courts fully staffed. Of course, not when the students are around, which is a problem. One thing I may do is switch out the instructors. Try and attract a higher quality of teacher. Xanthi's up to a C+.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
So the one thing I would like a slightly better so I guess one thing that I would observe, we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I've got 20 Scientography students, but theoretically only 16 spots for classes. All right.
Janitor required in bathroom.
Not, but not the Jaeger, Henrietta. So we're all good there. Clyde Rocket, congratulate. Oh.
I recently spent a weekend away on Pebbly Island, a beautiful locale in our proverbial neck of the metaphoric woods, where I stayed in a luxury hotel. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Ricky, you've changed. It's true, I do it all the time. I hardly recognize myself. Next up, mirrors. What are they looking at?
Are you sure you want to fire Homer Rake, the assistants? It's okay. It may surprise you to know that this sort of thing happens to me all the time. All right.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Pat Rampant. Are you sure you want to fire Eleanor Morjo, teacher? I know my methods might seem unconventional, but to some, but sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. Well, now I feel bad. Alright, money Atom Poster wanted. We will
Janitor required.
give them everything they want. I wish I knew what this 2 meant. Maybe it means there's like 2 people waiting? That's exactly what that means. A 2-player game table. If I can practice, I'll turn pro when I graduate. That's a thing, right?
Janitor required for groundskeeping.
More game tables. The academic year is over and the results day is here. The end of the year ceremony will commence shortly. All right, we had a drop in the average exam results, which isn't great. We've got 30 continuing, and apparently that's it. Academic excellence awarded to the campus that makes everyone else look stupid by comparison. Well done, and how dare you? And campus of the year for the most audaciously prestigious and finely decorated facility around. Now that's a campus.
New to the Crumley student range, Chicken Stompers. Take the smoothest natural chicken matter from Crumley Farms boneless chickens. Add our secret seasoning and a touch of traditional stabilizing agent and stamp. You've got Crumley's Chicken Stompers. Breaded for palatability. They really could be anything. Just like Mama used to make.
Okay, so we got 64 students next year. That is going to be really hard to accommodate.
The summer break would be a convenient time for construction.
Okay. So if we're at 64 students, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. That's not as bad as I thought, actually. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's build another dormitory. We're going to make a unique dormitory, though. The Lovin' Dormitory. Nope, we can't. We don't have the kudosh for it. Never mind. Chastity is the order of the day. We're going to make a barracks, then.
It doesn't matter how desperate you are. No urinating
How you doing,
on
Revive Snow?
campus facilities.
Nah, that's gonna suck. Let's be reasonable. Hat stand? Hat stand.
And now the news and today's top story. Sensitive government documents first thought recovered are now feared to be deli meats. Now that is a shame, but at least there's a salty silver lining. What's a little cyber insecurity when you've got a face full of ham? Nice one.
All right, let's.
Students eating rubbish are reminded that you are what you eat.
We're gonna build a VR lab. Actually, you know what? Let's just copy the lecture theater. Find a little. Okay, that's not gonna work with the entrance. We can work with this. Ah, now this is where it gets tricky. Although, that fits in a nice... There'll be some modifications, but... Nope. Actually, don't even really need to modify. Just put that down there. Okay, not you.
Janitor required for groundskeeping. Thank you.
You did it! Alright. Now this isn't my favorite library, but I think we can knock another one of these out too. Vladimir Jazz. There you go. And then we need another virtual normality teacher. Excellent personal hygiene's a good, but so is rapid. Finally, we want a Scientography
I'm so
teacher.
disappointed
There we go.
in you. Thank you.
All right. I'm happy with this. Start the new year. Are you sure you want to start the year with the following courses? I should put trash cans like in the... I mean, we've got trash cans around the building, but I haven't really expanded out this part yet, so we can... I don't really think this part through.
Wasn't that a smashing tune? I'd have been tapping my toe from hither to yon if I wasn't completely tone deaf. Did you know that I'm also situationally tone deaf? Yes, I just cannot read a situation. I have one speed, and that's Ricky.
So we're kind of phoning it in here just because we need the upgrade to level 4. And then, of course, we need graduation. None of these things are ones that we can rush. Uh-oh. I do not know
Should
if
make
that
a
works.
good first impression. No pressure.
Room at capacity. All right. I mean, I feel like we have more than enough student lounge space. All right, good monthly profit. Cell poster. Damn right we're doing the cell poster. I can't imagine a campus without it, frankly. Feel the learning. All right. Scientography bookcase, which we do not have the kudosh for. Now we're faced with trade-offs.
Housekeeping. Thank you.
I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry. I need to find a way to make kudosh. Ramen kiosk. Yeah, we're not doing that.
Student requests are often heard, but not always listened to.
Damn straight. More like student guidelines. Okay, that'll get me the kudosh for virtual normality. Oh, excellent. Okay, we've got 50
another
kudosh
craze
as well.
sweeping our county's youth. The so-called cheesy gob-off asks challengers to see how many cheesy gubbins they can stuff into their unsuspecting gobs. Competition is a wonderful thing, don't you think? It brings us all together and fills our mouths with cheese.
Library, the centerpiece of an all out-of-class studying. The library is where books live. Knowledge flows through the books into campus and eventually our students' brains. Research specialist bookcases to provide the finest, most relevant materials for all of our students. Okay, so let's slow things down so I can accommodate. Let's do virtual normality first. Okay, so that's got to be in the library. Now, we're in a tough spot on this one just because there's like no room for anything here. So perhaps... Okay, I'll first find a library where I can place it, assuming we have one. Oh yeah, this will work. I can't remember. Yeah, we did have a library that we put in the other building as well. I think we're just gonna have to accept. Excuse me. This served its purpose at the start. We're not gonna be able to go any further with it. 8 days for Scientography. Unfortunately, that's just not gonna work for us. Momentum marbles we can do though.
Your body is a temple, and you wouldn't fill a temple with crisps.
So, not feeling super optimistic about our ability to deliver on future bookshelves, but we will see what happens over time. So at this point here, I'm largely waiting on the... Oh. Weed infestation will be fine. We're doing okay on profit, which is good.
Janitor needed in library.
So at this point, we're waiting on course levels and students graduating. I'm noticing the happiness is getting to a somewhat alarming level. I'm curious if there's just an overall stat.
We are nearing the finish line today, but first our producers wouldn't let me leave without trying my hand at the cheesy gob-off. Play that music while I gob on down.
So I mean, personal goals I don't really know what to do with.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've done 60. You get my straight. I've been working hard for. See you around. That's quite nice.
Alright, let's find some ways to... Actually, I'm gonna do some cheesy posters and such.
Despite the rumors, the campus grounds are not a toilet.
Open day report. Okay. We're slowly building towards more kudosh. Yeah, let's worry about decorative. Random decorations always make the place look better. Virtual normality, a new era of technology is here, and it's sure to redefine the way you think about goggles. Students can experience being where they're not, like never before. Discover new worlds or practice tying your shoes, all in the comfort and privacy of the virtual realm.
Janitor required.
Okay, so that's going to give me my opportunity to... that's going to give me my opportunity to improve the... Come on, you can do it. Sorry, this is going to help me improve my ability to do the library.
Students eating rubbish are reminded that you are what you eat.
So yeah, this building could definitely use an improvement, but all right. Crazy taxi machine. Kudosh. Earn Kudosh by completing objectives, challenges, and career goals, just like this one. Use Kudosh to unlock new items, staff outfits, or room customization options. Remember, it's not actual money, so spend it with carefree frivolity and reckless abandon. I do believe that... Oh, no, we're... Oh, yeah, no, we've got what we need for the library. So we're going to do that first. Really? The existing toilets were not enough for you?
Janitor required in bathroom.
Okay, I do want to do Crazy Taxi when I can, but I also want to make sure the students is learning. Yeah, 250 Kudosh? That's not happening. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to start triaging these based on the number of people who agree. So like Crazy Taxi is the one that satisfies the largest number of student requests.
Not always listened to.
But,
It's a bit drizzly outside.
I don't know, we'll see.
Please plan accordingly.
I think right now the goal is gonna be upgrade to 4 because we're probably going to get probably gonna get the graduation done relatively soon. Yeah, so we're in the black as far as total money coming in, and then essentially any profit we make is XP. So that's probably where I want it to be. Money! Making money isn't our core objective as a campus, but it is our core objective as a
Taking your
business.
medication, because it's time for the Harrison Wolf Show here on 2 Point Radio. And it's gonna be a wild ride.
Be smart with money and run a financially
It's
successful
me,
campus.
Harrison Wolf, the voice of freedom screaming into a thankless night. It's gonna be a huge show today, so I'm gonna eat a big old sandwich. Let's power up and power on.
Be smart with money and run a financially successful campus that brings in more money than it's spending on facilities, staff, wages, and events. Sure, money isn't everything, but I forget the rest. Okay, Bat Poster's pretty popular, so...
Janitor required in bathroom.
Can't remember, did I have any more dorms? We're also going to put this in the student lounges because I'm a cool admin like that. You know, there are other kiosks. I surely hang on.
Library requesting assistant.
1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 assistants capable of doing library stuff. Mind you, I also have space for staff, so... Holy crap, we got a good one. All right. Happiness is dropping a little again, but that might work its way back up over time. Ramen kiosk still not working. Morsel men machine wanted. Not enough kudosh. Yeah, I think I'm just going to let nature take its course on some of these. Friendships. Encourage your students to socialize by hosting events, providing social spaces, and placing relationship items. Every student deserves a witness to the highs and lows of their time on campus, because no one remembers your most embarrassing moments quite like a close friend.
Janitor required in bathroom.
Okay, let's, This is a tricky one, because we can satisfy this right now with 100 kudosh. We get three people satisfied, or we wait,
into space the other day?
and we can get 4
I'm
people.
Sure they'll tell you that it's important work. But what I want to know is, why don't they try something a little funkier? I mean, how many times do we have to do the same old bunch of astronaut things? Why not send up a load of sandwiches? Or a robot? Or that angry badger that lives in my garden? Because it doesn't fit with their agenda. That's why.
Romance! Counter to popular belief, love is very rarely found at first sight. In fact, many of the country's relationships are the product of a lengthy and strenuous screening process. And promote student romance by placing relationship items and leaving them to it. I think this is probably my favorite out of the soundtrack songs.
Janitor required for groundskeeping. Thank you.
You know what? I'm not opposed. I think at this case, let's do another student lounge. I'm probably going to regret doing this. Probably need to put some bathrooms out at some point too, but you know what? That's a tomorrow me problem.
This is an academic institution. Our bathrooms are co-educational.
It is kind of interesting. The way that the path on this seems to be going is bored. There's so many things to do. But yeah, like right now it seems to be this like constant growth in terms of bringing in more students, which obviously with a finite amount of space is like that's not going to be sustainable. But I can also sort of see a natural change to that being, I mean, first of all, there's graduation, right? So there'll be some replacement rate. But I can also imagine like this is the point where you start increasing the standards. Like
I've forgotten what this segment was going to be about. Do you ever just forget what you were going to say? Thoughts are like frogs, and sometimes they just hop away. But they know what they're doing. If I still knew, we'd never have had this moment. It feels right. Oh, yeah, I remember now. Here's a song.
Janitor needed in dormitory.
I really shouldn't be satisfying every last request like this, but... Open Day report. The Open Day was a great success. Those students now think of us as an important part of their future for better or worse. But yeah, so adding higher restrictions for students may be an option. I don't know, we'll see.
Class is starting. Please take a seat.
How are you hungry on this campus? Microscope. Oh man, that's actually related to studies. VR projector. Man, these are all such good ideas. Now I regret buying like ramen and
Janitor required in bathroom.
all right, we're gonna crash through the rest of the academic year. I believe it's 3 years, so we should see some graduating students, but I think we're probably going to need another academic year before we can get Scientography up to level 4. Yeah, we're still, as long as we're, I mean, again, the XP bonus I'm not going to worry too much about, but as long as we're covering staff costs.
New from Cheesy Gubbins. One big gubbin. Out of your dreams and into your mouth.
And we're almost at the end of the season. Veggie kiosk. No, damn it! You need to learn first.
Frequently asked questions. I believe that smell.
Oh, we're down to an A. I thought we had A pluses. Maybe I'm not thinking of this properly. Failed to complete assignment. I'm so sorry. I failed. You're still an A plus student. Go to hell. Duck hedge? No. We need to science this first. There we go. The academic year is over. The results day is here. The end of year ceremony will commence shortly. Year 3. 10 graduating, 54 continuing, average exam results 87. Awarded to the campus that makes everybody else look stupid by comparison. Well done and how dare you. And campus of the year. So 20 kudos to show for that.
Results are in. Wow, didn't we do well?
Okay, so in a perfect world, VR projector, also Scientography stuff. Yeah, 185, 150 kudosh is a lot to ask right now. Okay, we need another science lab, another Scientography teacher, another virtual normality. Okay, so we can satisfy the teacher requirement.
The summer is a good time to relax and prepare for next year.
Somehow, I need to fit another science lab in this monstrosity. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move the bathroom.
Harrison Wolf bringing you unfiltered content on 2 Point Radio. I don't have an editor on my show. Why? Because editors can change what you say. They can make me say, hey everyone, come to my house and take my petunias. But I'd never say that outside of this specific example. It's gotta be natural, man. Give me juice with the pulp in. Give me cheese with the wax on. This is Radio Au Naturel. It's al fresco. It's al dente.
Sure, fine.
Oh yeah.
Not even close. There is no way we're fitting that in here. Okay. Fine. Oh god. Okay, how am I gonna make this work? You know what? Let's just let's try and be clever in this part of the building. All right. You need a room to do a science? Yeah, there's no way we're getting a 5x5 in there. So, I'm guessing there's no more land for us to buy. I mean, obviously there's, if I move stuff around, well, okay, actually, let's go back to that idea of moving this one. Because I just need a 5x5 science lab. It doesn't have to be miraculous. I'm not happy about it, but it'll work.
Attention. Your finger is not a toothbrush.
It is. This is a completely baffling setup that no rational human being would ever choose. I'm sure we could actually probably fix this by moving. Actually, you know what? I know exactly how we're gonna fix this. But let's science it up first. Probably not going to be able to fit the big microscope when it comes down to it. But
I was watching some of that cheesy Gubbins show the other day. You know, the cheesy goblins? Man, was I confused. What's their deal? Do they grow the Gubbins? Are they trying to find them or mine them or something? I'd tell you, kids must be pretty smart these days to follow such a complex show. Tip of the hat to any kids listening along.
all right. So if we try to move you, I don't hate this.
Janitor needed to unblock toilets. Lovely.
Oh, I didn't want to move that. Big window for the bathroom. I do not want to sell the invalid items. I want to find out where they are. Sure. So again, weird placement. I would not normally do this, but what am I gonna do, right? Okay, 88 students next year. What the hell am I gonna do with that? Star rating increased, Freshly Meadows, and quite an accomplishment too. If this were anywhere but 2 Point County, perhaps we wouldn't celebrate people doing their jobs with quite the degree of vim and vigor, but here we are. To the map. Sure, save and quit. Right, I actually believe that is the furthest I've gotten in 2 Point Campus. I didn't go that far in the original one. What did you all think of this? I mean, I'm obviously 45 minutes in, although it was like 45 minutes of talking at the start. If I were to do... So, you know, I really enjoyed doing Jurassic World Evolution 2. I really enjoyed 2 Point Campus, and I feel like maybe I'll jump in and understand the game better. I don't know, maybe I'll see if there's a manual or something like that to try and get a slightly better idea. The big challenge I'm running into right now is it's all well and good for them to say, like, okay, you know, there's going to be like 80 kids that come in here. It's like, okay, fine. Like, you know, if it's, you know, five per bed, then I can roughly work around that, try and work out like what the bathroom need is and so on. Like I can try and build facilities around that. But I have no idea what it's going to take to do, you know, like if I need to do a science lab, right? And if there's only room for 8 students, well, how like, do I need enough spots for every single student on the campus? Do I, you know, does the timetable work in such a way that I can move them on? That one I'm still not 100% clear on. But again, we'll be starting a new map. I'm not going to be shackled to my bad decisions, in the previous area. That's another administrator's job to worry about. So, but yeah, I don't know. Does anybody have any opinions on this one? If you were to choose between Jurassic Park and this, do you have a preference? Do you want me to stop doing business sims overall? New campus unlocked. Piazza Lantara now available. All right, Freshly Meadows, this countryside college has low expectations and a nice canal. It's the perfect place to start your career. Yeah, I'm happy with this. I don't think I need to worry about... I mean, unless there's an even higher level, but I feel getting to the 3rd level is fine. All right, so this is an interesting one, right? We've got Piazza Lantara. So that starts us off with half as much money as we did for Freshly Meadows. And serve award-winning food and help culinary students stomach the perils of fine dining. Oh, it's a culinary institute. This will be interesting. Okay, cool. And I'm wondering about this one. So stars, I guess this is like staff. I didn't even think to check this. So Jumbo McNally has a higher campus level. We've got the best pass rate. Slightly worse on grades. Interesting. Very few students. Highest annual profit. Not enough kudosh. Okay. I can see this working. Hey, Chaz, how you doing? Cool. Looking at the overall picture here, so we've got one here. Oh, here we go. So Mitten University, the historic university, is looking for someone to take them into the present by opening a modern campus on its hallowed grounds. And finally, Noblestead, preserve the traditions of knighthood and defend your campus from the local competition. And is that... I wonder if that's it. I feel like there's probably... I feel like it's more than just 4 areas. If I recall correctly, 2 Point Hospital had something similar. So I think the idea is that you finish like this region and then you move on to, you know, like these sort of colored areas as well. But again, that's a tomorrow me problem to deal with. Challenge mode and sandbox. Sandbox will be... I actually think sandbox will be a lot of fun to play once I get a better idea of how to angle all of this. This was the one I did before. I thought I got rid of this one actually. Can I duplicate it? I may play some of this on my own time and then I'll figure it out. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I could benefit from here is like a proper manual just to work out the relationships between all the different things. Because like, I don't mind doing the work. Like, I think some of the things about these games is, you know, you sometimes just need to do the work to figure it out. I thought Industries of Titan was interesting because part of the fun of that one was just making all the funny, making all like the different factory parts like work together. Was a little bit of like a game of Tetris. It was clear that they built layouts to make it kind of frustrating to use. But like, again, working that all out was part of the challenge. But the thing is that like you knew you had to have a certain number of items. Like you had to there's like you had to have a certain output for each item or each workbench to like make the factories work. So that one, it was really clear that, you know, if you're putting 2 mineral into part of the conveyor belt, you're going to want to have something that generates 2 minerals. And Infinifactory, or sorry, is it Infinifactory? It's Satisfactory. That one operates on a similar idea, and some of the fun that they have with that is they'll have machines that like don't evenly divide, right? So it's not that, you know, you create a complicated item from 2 simple ones that you can manage, but it's like one thing's going to produce a third of what you need, or like it's a like a 2 to 3 ratio. So you have to like build this you either allow for the fact that there's some surplus that's being generated, which isn't ideal, or you have to just like build out in this unusual way because you just have these weird proportions. And so that's another way that these business sims can be fun. And I can see it working both ways in 2 Point Campus, but the biggest thing that I need to understand right now is I think the only time it's explicitly told me a relationship is like 1 bed for every 5 students. That may not even be an ideal ratio. And ideally I would find out through something other than complaints how to handle that. But again, we'll make this work. We'll learn it. And I'll see if there's like a manual or something like that. Anyways, I'm at the 4-hour mark, and I want to do something other than play video games tonight. So let's see who's online. Will Shand is playing something Cthulhu oriented, so we're gonna rate him. Overall plans for the next couple weeks. So this week we had the local game dev meetup. That's in the rearview mirror. So on Monday I should be back. We'll probably I'm split between either doing more Quest for Glory 1, which I'm enjoying, or doing what am I trying to say? Either Quest for Glory 1 or Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop. I'll figure out the two. Oh, it's Cthulhu the Cosmic Abyss is what Will Shand is playing. So that I'll probably do for 2 days. I do want to try and do more of these business sims. So I figure either 2 Point Campus or Jurassic World Evolution. I'll try and figure out which of the two I feel a little more comfortable with. But once I know, you'll know. And as for the rest, I'm just going to say I hope you all have a good night, and we will see you in see you Monday. Until then, take care.